Calder Matthews stood in his custom-built walk-in closet, his fingers methodically buttoning his crisp dress shirt. Through the open doorway, his reflection flickered in the master bathroom's trio of mirrors, each one showing a man who looked like he had it all: wealth, success, stability, but who felt like an outsider in his own home. The morning light streamed through the frosted windows, catching the silver streaks in his dark hair. 23 years of marriage had etched those lines, aging him far beyond what time alone could do. Was this really his life now? Laughter echoed down the hallway, sharp and exclusive, his wife Maris and their daughter Sloane sharing another private joke he'd never understand. Their voices grew louder, their heels clicking sharply against the marble floors he'd paid for in last year's extravagant renovation. "Mom, you have to wear the red one," Sloane's voice burst through the air, full of conviction. "The black dress is fine, but the red, it's absolutely killer." Maris's reply carried a hint of false modesty that didn't fool Calder for a second. "You don't think it's a bit much for a family reunion?" she asked, but he could hear the smirk in her tone. She'd already decided, hadn't she? 3 hours at Neiman Marcus, picking out that dress for today, wasn't just shopping, it was strategy. "Too much? Oh, please," Sloane scoffed, her voice clear even from the closet. "Half the fun is making everyone else feel like they didn't even try." Her tone turned sly, dripping with intent. "Besides, certain people love a woman who knows how to steal the show." The emphasis on certain people made Calder's hands freeze on his tie. His jaw tightened. He knew exactly who she meant. Alden Crawford. That name had haunted their conversations all week, ever since the family group chat lit up with the reunion guest list. Why did it always come back to him? "Slow," Maris said with a playful scold that rang hollow. "Why not?" Sloane shot back. "It's not like Dad's paying attention. He's probably crunching numbers in his head, comparing the cost of designer dresses to department store knockoffs." Their laughter hit Calder like a bucket of ice water, chilling him to the core. He finished his Windsor knot with mechanical precision, his mind drifting to the day he'd learned it, his wedding day, standing in a modest bathroom, brimming with dreams of the family he'd build with Maris. How naive had he been? That memory felt like a cruel joke now. Stepping into the master bedroom, Calder took in the chaos. Designer clothes, each piece worth more than his first car, were strewn across the king-sized bed. Maris stood before the full-length mirror already in that red dress, its plunging neckline and clinging fabric screaming for attention. At 45, she still turned heads, didn't she? Sloane perched on the tufted ottoman, both of them oblivious to the mess they'd made in their quest for perfection. "The bathroom counter is a disaster with all that makeup," Calder said, keeping his voice steady despite the frustration simmering inside. "We've got 30 minutes to get out the door if we want to be on time." Maris barely glanced his way, too busy adjusting her dress. "Relax, Calder," she called dismissively. "Nobody shows up right at the start of these things. We've got plenty of time." "Yeah, Dad," Sloane chimed in, rolling her eyes as she tapped away on her phone. "God, why are you so uptight about everything?" "The invitation said 2 o'clock, Calder pointed out, moving to tidy the pile of discarded clothes. "It's already 1:30 and the drive to the country club—" "Leave those," Maris cut him off, finally turning to face him. "Rosa can handle it tomorrow. That's what we pay her for, isn't it?" Calder's patience frayed. "Rosa shouldn't have to clean up messes just because—" "Oh my God," Sloane groaned with exaggerated drama. "Here we go with the responsibility lecture again. Newsflash, Dad, normal people don't obsess over the cleaning lady's feelings." "Rosa's a person who deserves respect," Calder said firmly, continuing to hang up the scattered garments, "just like everyone who works to make our lives easier." Sloane's tone shifted to that sugary voice she used when she wanted something. "Speaking of making our lives easier, Dad, did you transfer the money for my spring break trip?" Calder paused, a silk dress still in his hands. We talked about this yesterday. $2,000 for a weekend in Miami is excessive, especially with your credit card bills from last month. Mom already said it's fine, Sloane snapped, her sweet facade gone in an instant. Of course it's fine, Maris jumped in before Calder could respond, spritzing herself with another cloud of overpriced perfume. God forbid our daughter actually enjoys her college years instead of pinching pennies like some people. Calder's head throbbed with a familiar tension. There's a difference between pinching pennies and being responsible, he said. I work hard to provide for this family. Here we go. Sloane threw up her hands. The great martyr Calder Matthews, sacrificing everything for his ungrateful family. Should we bow down now or wait for your big speech on fiscal responsibility? Maris's laughter was sharp, cutting as she applied another layer of lipstick. Honey, just transfer the money. It's not like we can't afford it. She turned, fixing him with a calculating stare. Unless, is there something you're not telling us about our finances? The accusation stung like a slap. After 23 years of building their wealth from a scrappy startup to a thriving corporation, ensuring they'd never want for anything, she still questioned him? Our finances are fine, he said stiffly. That's not the point. It's about teaching values. Values? Sloane scoffed, standing to adjust her own designer outfit in the mirror. Your values are as outdated as that suit. No offense, Dad. But maybe if you spent less time obsessing over retirement savings and more time actually living, you wouldn't be so boring. Her words hit like a well-aimed dart. Calder pulled out his phone, making the transfer while ignoring the triumphant glance Maris and Sloane shared in the mirror. $2,000, a drop in their vast wealth, but another chip in the crumbling foundation of respect he'd tried to build. Thanks, Daddy, Sloane cooed, with her phone pinging with the notification. See? Was that so hard? Calder watched as Sloane bounced over to her mother, both of them fussing over their reflections one last time. The scene screamed everything wrong with their family. The shallow bond between mother and daughter, their casual dismissal of his concerns, the way they treated him like a walking ATM instead of a husband and father. We should get going, he said quietly, grabbing his suit jacket. Neither acknowledged him, too caught up debating whether Maris should wear the diamond tennis bracelet or the sapphire one, both anniversary gifts from him, tossed aside with barely a thank you.
Descending the curved staircase, each step pulled him further from their laughter and closer to a decision he could feel brewing. Today's reunion would change everything, wouldn't it? He felt it deep in his bones, though he didn't yet know how much his family would regret their choices. The drive to the country club frayed Calder's nerves to the breaking point. From the back, why was it always about Alden? The parking lot's filling up, Calder noted, turning into the country club entrance. If we'd left when I suggested, oh my God, Dad, seriously. Sloane leaned forward, exasperated. Nobody cares about parking spots except you. Mom needs to make an entrance, don't you, Mom? Maris's smile was practiced, never reaching her eyes. A lady doesn't show up first to a party, it looks desperate. But being fashionably late to see old friends, that's a whole different story. Sloane's knowing smirk added fuel to Calder's unease. Especially friends you haven't seen in forever, right? Calder eased their Mercedes into one of the last spots, deliberately taking his time. Each second delayed the inevitable, watching Maris's eyes light up for another man. There's Uncle James's car. Sloane practically bounced out of her seat as he cut the engine. Mom, look who's with him. Through the windshield, Calder saw them, James and his wife Susan chatting with a tall figure in a tailored suit. Even from here, Alden Crawford's confidence radiated, drawing people like moths to a flame. Well, Maris smoothed her dress as she stepped out, we shouldn't keep family waiting, should we? The walk to the entrance hall felt like a death march. Calder watched Maris transform, her steps lighter, her smile brighter, her hand casually brushing through her styled hair. Beside her, Sloane vibrated with excitement, already playing matchmaker. Maris Matthews, you're a vision. Alden's voice boomed across the parking lot, dripping with charm that made Calder's teeth grind. The man stepped forward, arms wide, as if he had every right to embrace another man's wife. You look amazing, Alden continued, as Maris leaned into his hug with an enthusiasm that spiked Calder's blood pressure. Silicon Valley must agree with you. Not as much as time agrees with you, Maris purred back. You haven't aged a day since college. Alden's eyes flicked to Sloan. And this can't be little Sloan. Last I saw you, you were barely up to your mom's waist. Hi, Mr. Crawford, Sloan chirped, flipping on that sugary charm she saved for getting her way. Mom spilled so many stories about you. Wild ones. Her grin was all mischief. All good ones, I hope? Alden laughed, his eyes locked on Maris, barely glancing away. Oh, definitely. Sloan shot back, her smile loaded with meaning. Especially those college tales. Mom swears you were the king of the dance floor back then. Her tone dripped with implication, and Calder's gut twisted. Enough! He stepped forward, planting himself slightly between Alden and Maris. Alden, he said, his voice tight. A warning. Alden's response was a curt nod, barely acknowledging him, before turning back to Maris with a grin. We'll have to see if your mom still has those old moves, won't we? He teased. Calder opened his mouth to protest, but James and Susan swooped in, their chatter creating a polite buffer. Still, Calder's eyes caught everything, how Alden stayed close to Maris, how she leaned toward him like a magnet, how Sloan steered every conversation to keep them in the spotlight. Was this really happening right in front of him? The country club's grand entrance hall sparkled with flowers and banners welcoming the family, but the hum of relatives' voices couldn't drown out Maris's laughter at Alden's jokes. It pierced him like a knife. Calder, his cousin Michael approached, drink in hand, oblivious to the storm brewing inside him. Your business still killing it in tech? I've been a good year, Calder replied, his voice flat, his attention split between Michael and Alden's hand brushing Maris's arm. Again, heard you sealed that Singapore deal. What was it, 50 million? 67, Calder corrected, his eyes tracking Sloan as she worked the room like a pro, ensuring Maris and Alden stayed the center of attention. How did she get so good at this? Damn, that's impressive, Michael whistled. You were always the sharp one. Remember when Alden tried to take you on in college? His startup crashed and burned while you soared. Though between us, he's doing all right now. Just snagged a place in the Hamptons, I hear. The irony hit Calder like a punch. Maris had begged for a beach house, but he'd called it too risky. Now Alden had one-upped him, hadn't he? Calder could already hear the drive home, Maris's barbed comments about his lack of flair, his failure to give her what she craved. As the afternoon dragged on, Calder watched Maris and Alden dance their subtle game. They never lingered too long together, never crossed into outright scandal, but their constant orbit, charged glances, lingering touches screamed betrayal. Sloan played conductor, weaving through the crowd, tossing out comments like, "Mom's organizing this huge charity gala," to one group. Then, "Can you believe Dad tried to stop her? Said it was too much stress," to another. Each jab was a tiny cut, barely noticeable alone, but bleeding him dry together. They were painting him as the villain, the controlling husband, the dull father who couldn't keep up with their sparkle. "Dinner's starting," Susan said, appearing at his side. "We're at table 3. You, Maris, Sloan, James, and me." She paused, then added, "And Alden, of course." Of course. Calder glanced at his seat, perfectly positioned to watch Maris and Alden all night. Had Sloan rigged the seating? Wouldn't put it past her. As they headed to the table, Calder caught his reflection in an ornate mirror. To everyone else, he was the picture of success. Sharp suit, steady gaze, but he saw what Maris and Sloan saw. A predictable man, safe, boring, good for his wallet, but not his fire. What would they see when he stopped playing that role? The dining room glowed under crystal chandeliers, the china and silver gleaming like the wealth Calder had built. At table 3, he sat stiffly, each minute an eternity, as Maris charmed everyone with her practice ease. "Remember that spring break in Cancun?" Alden's voice carried across the table, smooth as velvet. "Maris, the way you danced on that beach, I'd never seen anything like it." Maris's laugh was warm, real, the kind Calder hadn't heard for him in years. God, we were so wild back then, she said. That little beachside bar where we learned to salsa, remember?
Betrayal. Without a word, he walked away, his steps steady across the polished floor, each one pulling him further from the music and laughter. Sloane's scoff followed him, and he could picture their triumphant smirks, certain he'd slink back, ready to be used again. They had no idea. The parking lot was dark, the evening chill matching the ice in his heart. He slid into his car, the one Maris insisted on for their image, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, the clubhouse glowed, his wife and daughter likely basking in their victory. They didn't know this dance was their last with wealth, that their world was about to collapse, that the boring man they mocked had finally snapped. Calder drove into the night, his mind racing with plans. They wanted to dance? Fine, but he'd call the tune now. The next morning, Maris woke to an empty house and a flood of missed calls from Sloane. Her head throbbed from wine and dancing. "Sloane, what's wrong?" she answered, yawning. "It's barely 9. "Dad's not picking up." Sloane's voice crackled with panic. "Have you heard from him?" Maris sat up, silk sheets slipping off. The other side of the bed was untouched. "He's probably sulking at the office," she said, brushing it off. "You know how dramatic he gets." "Mom, I called his office," Sloane shot back. "Jessica said he hasn't shown up and his calendar's cleared for a month." A chill hit Maris's stomach. She patted across the plush carpet to Calder's closet. "He's just being stubborn. He'll get over—" Her voice died as she yanked open the door. Empty hangers stared at Maris where Calder's suits once hung, a hollow mockery of his presence. The built-in drawers gaped open, stripped bare. His leather briefcase, always positioned with precision by the door, was gone. "Mom!" Sloane's voice spiked with panic through the phone. "What's wrong?" Maris's eyes darted over the desolate closet. He took everything," she gasped. "His suits, his casual stuff, even those awful golf shirts he loved. They're all gone." "Oh my God!" Sloane's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. "Do you think he meant it about leaving?" "Don't be absurd," Maris snapped, but a tremor of doubt crept into her words. "Your father doesn't have the guts for this. He's just throwing a fit to make a point." "Should we call Uncle Michael?" Sloane pressed. "Maybe he knows something." "No way!" Maris slammed the closet door shut. "We're not giving him the satisfaction of making a scene. He'll crawl back when he's done with his little tantrum." But as the day dragged on, doubt gnawed at her like a relentless pest. Calder's toothbrush was missing from the bathroom. His laptop had vanished from his study. Even his reading glasses, always perched on the bedside table, were nowhere to be found. What was he playing at? The doorbell jolted her as she poured her third glass of wine, the liquid trembling in her hand. She flung open the door to find Sloane, last night's makeup smudged, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "Have you checked the accounts?" Sloane demanded, brushing past into the foyer. "What?" Maris trailed her to Calder's study, her heart picking up speed. "Why would I need to check the accounts?" Sloane was already at the desktop, logging into the banking site with frantic clicks. "Oh no!" Sloane's fingers froze. "No! No! What's wrong?" Maris leaned in, dread pooling in her stomach. "The joint account!" She clicked through pages, her voice rising. "Mom, it's practically empty. There's only $55,000 left." "That's impossible," Maris shoved her aside, seizing the mouse. "There should be at least $500,000 in there." "Check the investments," Sloane urged, pulling up another window, her face ghostly pale. "Those are empty too. Everything's been moved in the last 12 hours. "He can't do this," Maris' voice cracked with panic. "That's my money too. Call the bank. Tell them it's a mistake." "It's not a mistake, Mom." Sloane slumped back, tugging at her disheveled hair. "Your dad's name is on everything. You said you didn't want to deal with the boring financial stuff when you got married, remember?" The phone's shrill ring made them both jump. Maris grabbed it, hope flaring. "Calder?" "Mrs. Matthews, this is American Express about unusual activity on your account." "Yes," Maris cut in. "There's a mistake. My husband—" Your husband removed you as an authorized user on all cards this morning. As the primary card holder, it's his right. Your cards are deactivated. Maris collapsed into Calder's leather chair, the wineglass shaking in her grip. He can't do this. I'm his wife. I understand it's upsetting, but legally, she hung up, spinning to Sloane with wild eyes. Your father's lost it. Call him again. Call his friends, his colleagues, everyone. Someone has to know where he is. Sloane was already dialing, but each call hit voicemail, their composure cracking with every unanswered ring. What about my tuition? Sloane's voice broke, her face ashen. My spring break trip? The money he sent yesterday? Another call cut her off. Her bank. The transfer had been reversed. Every cent. That spiteful jerk, Maris spat, pacing the study. All this over one stupid dance? He's unhinged. Mom, Sloane's voice shrank, sounding like a scared kid. What are we going to do? The house payment's due next week, and your cards are dead. We'll figure it out, Maris insisted, but her hand shook as she gulped her wine. He can't just vanish. He's probably holed up in some hotel waiting for us to grovel. But calls to every hotel in the city, then neighboring ones, yielded nothing. Calder, predictable, boring Calder, had outplayed them. Maybe we should call Alden, Sloane ventured, picking at her nails. He's good with money, and after last night... Maris's laugh was sharp, almost unhinged. Oh, brilliant! Let's call the guy your father thinks I betrayed him with. That'll fix everything, won't it? We have to do something, Sloane snapped. The electricity bill is due in 3 days. My tuition is pending, and we've got no cash. Face it, Mom, Calder finally grew a backbone and he's using it to destroy us. The doorbell rang, freezing them both, hope and fear colliding in Maris's chest as she rushed to answer. But instead of Calder, a courier stood there with an envelope. Mrs. Matthews, he said, holding out a clipboard, delivery requiring signature. Her fingers trembled as she signed, recognizing Calder's meticulous handwriting on the envelope. Tearing it open, she found a single sheet listing account numbers and passwords, with a note, "For tax purposes, you'll need these for the IRS. I paid everything through the month's end. After that, you're on your own." See? Maris crumpled the paper, her voice shaking with fury. Your father's waging war. The doorbell rang again, their new reflex of hope and dread kicking in. A man in a suit stood there, holding a thick envelope. Mrs. Matthews, I'm Richard Dawson from Matthews Technologies Legal Department. Maris stiffened. Legal Department? What's this about? Your husband asked me to deliver these, he said, handing over the envelope. It concerns your status as a beneficiary on company holdings and insurance policies. Maris's hands shook as she scanned the documents, her eyes widening. He's cut me out, she gasped. From everything! As CEO and majority shareholder, it's his right, Richard said flatly. The changes are processed. I'm here for formal notification. I helped build that company, Maris protested. I hosted the dinners, charmed the clients, played the perfect wife for 23 years. I'm not authorized to discuss further, Richard said, stepping back. Good day. The door's soft click echoed in the hollow house. Sloane read over her shoulder, her voice trembling. Mom, what now? My cards are maxed and the university's threatening to drop my classes if tuition isn't paid by Friday. Call your grandmother, Maris said, pouring a hefty scotch. Maybe she'll help. Sloane's laugh was empty. Already tried. She said, your father's a good man who deserved better than watching his wife throw herself at another man in public. Then she hung up. Sanctimonious nonsense. Maris caught herself, taking a deep breath. Fine. What about your trust fund? Frozen. Sloane collapsed under the sofa. Dad changed it last week. I can't touch it until I'm 30, and only if I show financial responsibility and ethical behavior. Can you believe that? The doorbell rang again. Another courier, another envelope. This time with a printed email thread from Calder to Alden, dated 3 days ago, warning him to stay away from Maris or face exposure of financial irregularities in his company. He's thought of everything, Sloane whispered, reading over Maris's shoulder. Every single backup plan! Your father was always meticulous, Maris said, her voice cripping with venom as she reached for the scotch.
I just never thought he'd weaponize it against us. The phone rang again. Her stylist canceling her standing appointment, her personal shopper reporting closed store accounts, the country club revoking her membership. He's erasing our life, Maris realized, each call a fresh blow. Everything we built! Maybe we should apologize, Sloane said, desperation cracking her voice. Say we're sorry for the dance, for everything. I tried, Maris scrolled through her phone, showing dozens of unanswered texts. Listen to this from yesterday. Calder, please, we can talk. The reunion was a mistake. Come home, let's fix this. What did he say? Sloane demanded, her voice trembling with dread. Nothing, Maris snapped, her throat burning from the scotch. But Rosa called an hour later. Calder gave her a fat severance package and a glowing recommendation for a new job. He's not just cutting us off, he's tearing apart our entire life. Sloane's phone buzzed, and her face crumpled as she read the text. Chelsea just uninvited me from her Aspen trip. Dad called her father and spilled about the money I borrowed last month, the money I swore I'd pay back but didn't. He's turning everyone against us, Maris realized, the scotch searing her throat. All our little secrets, the lies we thought were buried. Mom, Sloane's voice shrank, barely a whisper. I'm scared. I don't know how to live without money. Maris drained her glass, her eyes sweeping their lavish home, a home they might lose any day now. Neither do I, sweetheart. Neither do I. The doorbell's chime pierced the evening, and Maris's heart leapt with a mix of hope and fear. Another courier stood there, holding a small box. Inside was Maris's wedding ring, the one she'd left on her bedside table the night of the reunion, because it didn't match her jewelry. A note was tucked beside it. You chose your dance partner, now live with it. Maris stared at the ring, memories flooding back of a younger, hopeful her when Calder slipped it on her finger. She'd thought him dull but safe back then. How could she have missed this ruthless streak? I always said your father was predictable, she told Sloane, who sat stunned beside her. I was so wrong. We never really knew him at all. 2 weeks later, the Matthews mansion felt like a tomb. Without Rosa, dust coated the designer furniture, and unopened mail, most stamped with red final notice warnings, piled up in the foyer. Takeout containers littered the kitchen. Neither Maris nor Sloane had ever learned to cook, always relying on their chef, who, like Rosa, Calder had efficiently erased from their lives. Your tuition payment bounced again, Maris called as Sloane shuffled downstairs, still in her designer pajamas at 2 p.m. The university emailed. Another warning. I know, Sloane snapped, slamming the coffee maker. They're threatening to drop my classes, as if this isn't humiliating enough. Maybe try a student loan, Maris suggested, scrolling her phone, or a part-time job. Sloane's mug hit the counter, coffee splashing everywhere. A job? Are you kidding me? Do you know what that'd do to my social life? Your social life, Maris laughed bitterly. Wake up, honey. Your friends ditched you the second your card stopped working. All because you pushed me to dance with him. She spun, her eyes blazing. You couldn't say no. You had to prove you could still turn heads like Alden's. Don't you dare pin this on me. Maris shot to her feet, fury rising. Who kept egging me on? Go on, Mom, it's just a dance. Dad's being ridiculous. I didn't think he'd actually leave. You always said he was spineless, that he'd never stand up to us. This is on you. You're supposed to know how to handle him. Handle him? Maris grabbed the breakfast wine bottle. Your father played the docile fool for 23 years, all while setting up traps, moving money, waiting for us to cross him. Some handler I am. The doorbell rang, another jab at their fraying nerves. Sloane yanked it open to find Madison, her best friend, shifting awkwardly. Hey, Madison mumbled, I need my Birkin bag back, the one I loaned you last month. Sloane's face fell. Maddie, come on. We've been friends since kindergarten. You know I'll pay you back when this blows over. That's what you said about the concert tickets, and the spring break deposit, and that New York shopping spree. My parents know everything, Sloane. They're making me cut ties. Making you? Sloane's laugh was venomous. Right, because you've never had a spine. Just like everyone else, you're bailing when things get tough. You lied to me, Madison snapped. You never planned to pay anyone back, did you? You just kept taking, banking on your dad to cover you. Get out, Sloane hissed. Keep your stupid bag. I've got better ones. Not anymore, Madison muttered, turning to leave. Good luck scamming new friends. Sloane slammed the door, the chandelier rattling. She faced Maris, who watched with a strange look. What? Sloane demanded. How many people did you borrow from? Maris asked softly. How many lies are coming back to haunt us? Oh, that's rich, Sloane spat. Let's talk about your lies. Flirting with Alden for years, wearing that red dress because you knew he'd be there? I'm your mother. Maris's words stung like a slap. You're a joke, a desperate woman chasing attention, risking everything to feel wanted. Look at us now. No money, no friends, no future. Was that dance worth it, Mom? Maris's hand flew before she could stop it, the slap echoing through the foyer. Sloane reeled, hand to her cheek, eyes wide with shock. You ungrateful brat, Maris whispered, trembling. I gave you everything. You gave me nothing. Sloane shot back, her voice breaking. Dad gave us everything, and we treated him like an ATM. Well, the ATM's closed, and it's your fault. My fault? Maris hurled her wineglass against the wall, red staining the wallpaper like a wound. Who pushed us together at the reunion? Who kept calling Dad boring, saying he needed a lesson? You set this up, Sloane, because I taught you how.
Sloane's voice rose, mimicking her mother's tone. That's how you handle men, darling. They need to be managed. Great job managing Dad, Mom. Stellar work. The doorbell rang again, and a process server handed over a notice. Credit card companies suing for unpaid balances. The amount made them gasp. I can't do this, Sloane said, staring at the papers. I can't watch everything collapse. Where are you going? Maris called as Sloane stormed upstairs. Your accounts are frozen. Your friends ditched you. You've got nothing thanks to you. Sloane paused on the stairs. I'm packing what's left to sell. Maybe I can save my university spot. Run away? Maris shouted. Just like you did with that boy last year? What was his name? The one whose dad nearly sued us. Sloane froze. Don't bring that up. You promised we'd never talk about it. Why not? Maris sneered. Your father paid him off, like he fixed all your messes. But Daddy's not here now, is he? I hate you! Sloane's words fell like bricks. I hate what you've made me! I'm just like you! Honey, Maris's laugh was hollow. You're worse. At least I only manipulated men who could afford it. You scammed your own friends. They glared across the foyer, two mirrors of the same flaws, their once tight bond shattered like the wineglass on the floor. The doorbell rang again. Another courier with a single photograph. Calder at a casual dinner, smiling genuinely, free at last. The message was brutal. He'd moved on, while they were trapped in their crumbling empire, tearing each other apart. Sloane turned, climbing the stairs without a word. Maris watched, haunted by memories of plotting together on those steps, thinking they were untouchable. Now they couldn't even meet each other's eyes. In the dimming house, they might soon lose. Maris poured another wine with shaking hands. Somewhere, Calder was rebuilding, free from their schemes. They'd learned the hardest truth. Bonds built on deceit dissolve when the money runs dry. A month later, a plain white envelope arrived at the hollowed-out Matthews home. Maris, her manicure chipped and ragged, stared at Calder's precise handwriting. Sloane's heels clicked on the marble, among the last designer items she hadn't sold. Another bill? Sloane asked, her voice rough from sleepless nights. No, Maris held up the envelope. It's from your father. Sloane lunged for it. Open it! Maris's fingers shook as she tore it open, finding pages of detailed documents and a letter in Calder's crisp style. Dear Maris and Sloane, by now you've felt the weight of your choices. This is your final lesson in cause and effect. Skip the lecture, Sloane snapped. What does he want? Maris's face paled as she read on. I've attached a full accounting of my actions. Every transfer, every closed account, every canceled membership, all legal with timestamps and codes. You danced with him, Maris read, tears blurring the words. So I danced out of your lives. Now dance to the tune of your own making. The music stopped, ladies. Time to pay the piper. He's rubbing it in our faces, Sloane growled, her voice quivering with fear and fury. The house will be foreclosed next week.
Maris read, her hand trembling so violently the paper shook. "I've arranged for the bank to give you until Friday to grab your personal stuff. Consider it my last shred of kindness." "He can't do this!" Sloane shrieked in the kitchen. "This is our home!" "It's his home!" Maris snapped, her voice dripping with bitter regret. "Everything was in his name. We just lived here, blowing his money, mocking his caution, treating him like a denim ATM instead of a husband and father." "Keep reading," Sloane demanded, pacing like a trapped animal, her heels clicking frantically on the marble. "You've had a month to think about your actions," Maris continued, her voice cracking. "A month to grasp that choices have consequences. A month to learn what it's like without someone fixing your messes." She paused, her breath shaky, then pressed on. "Sloane, your trust fund stays frozen until you're 30, but I've arranged for the university to take you back on 2 conditions. First, you'll live in standard dorms, not that luxury apartment you insisted on. Second, you'll work part-time in the campus library to cover your expenses." "A job!" Sloane's laugh was wild, teetering on hysteria. "He expects me to slave away like some broke scholarship kid? These terms are non-negotiable." Maris read, her voice barely holding together. "Consider it a chance to build the work ethic and character you so desperately need." Sloane snatched her phone, her fingers shaking as she dialed. "I'm calling my grandmother! She won't let him do this to me!" "Your grandmother helped him set this up," Maris read, in a voice dropping to a stunned whisper. "In fact, most of the family supports these arrangements. They've watched for years as you manipulated and lied to everyone around you. Now they'll watch you learn to stand on your own." Sloane's phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the marble. "No, no, this can't be happening!" "As for you, Maris," she read, her voice barely audible, "divorce papers are coming this afternoon. My lawyers already warned every top attorney in the city. None will take your case. The prenup you signed without reading 23 years ago is airtight." "There's gotta be something," Sloane insisted, her composure shattering. "Some hidden account, some backup plan." A courier appeared at the door, holding a thick envelope. "Mrs. Matthews," he said, offering his tablet, "sign here for the divorce papers." Maris signed like a robot, the envelope's weight crushing her. Behind her, Sloane was frantically calling family, each attempt hitting voicemail. "No one's picking up!" she cried, panic flooding her voice. "Mom, what are we gonna do?" Before Maris could answer, their phones pinged with emails. Sloane opened hers, her face crumpling. "Movers!" she choked out. "Dad hired movers! They're coming tomorrow to pack his stuff! The art, the antiques, all his collectibles!" "He's not just divorcing me," Maris realized, scanning her email, her heart sinking. "He's erasing every trace of himself from our lives, just like we tried to erase him with our constant jabs and schemes." The doorbell rang again, and Maris's stomach dropped. Madison's mother stood there, her face a mix of smug satisfaction and disdain. "I'm here about Sloane's debts to my daughter," she declared, sweeping into the foyer. "Now that your father's not bailing you out, we need a payment plan." "Payment plan?" Sloane's laugh was unhinged, teetering on hysteria. "I've got nothing to pay with!" "Then we'll explore other options," Madison's mother said coldly. "Community service, maybe. The courts don't take kindly to fraud, even from spoiled rich girls." The threat lingered like a cloud of toxic perfume, one they could no longer afford. Maris watched Sloane buckle under the weight of consequences, finally seeing that charm couldn't fix this mess. "I'll get my checkbook," Maris said, her voice hollow, knowing every check would bounce, every promise empty. In their crumbling home, mother and daughter faced the wreckage of the life they'd taken for granted. Each doorbell brought fresh proof of Calder's ruthless precision, dismantling their world with every calculated move. They danced with betrayal, and now they'd pay for every step.
The 2-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of town felt like a jail cell compared to their mansion. Maris stood in the cramped living room, surrounded by the few items they could prove were bought with her old modeling money. "This can't be all we have," Sloane wailed, staring at their pitiful belongings.
Where's my crystal collection? My designer clothes? Your father's lawyers had receipts for everything, Maris replied, her voice empty. Every handbag, every shoe, every crystal piece, bought with his money, so they stay with him. A truck's beep drew them to the grimy window, where neighbors unloaded used furniture from a consignment shop to replace their lost luxuries. I can't believe we're stuck with someone else's gross old couch, Sloane shuddered. Who even sat on that thing before us? Someone who earned it, Maris muttered, then raised her voice. The movers charge by the hour. Help me unpack. Why bother? Sloane kicked a box labeled kitchen items. This place is a dump. No jet tub in the bathroom, and I swear I saw a roach in the hall. Unless you've got a magic way to afford better, this dump is home. Maris ripped open a box, pulling out their few dishes. At least your father got you back into the dorms next semester. Sloane's face twisted. Dorms? With a roommate? Like some charity case? You should be grateful, Maris snapped, her patience gone. At least you have options. The only modeling gigs I can get now are for discount stores, if I'm lucky. Grateful? Sloane's bitter laugh cut deep. For what? Shelving books in the library? Living in a tiny dorm? Watching my friends post about their luxe vacations while I'm stuck working? For having a future at all, Maris hurled packing paper across the room. Do you get what your father's done? No alimony, no property, no investments. I'm starting over at 45. This is your fault. Sloane grabbed her one remaining designer bag, barely saved from the lawyers. If you hadn't danced with Alden... If I hadn't danced? Maris whirled on her. Who pushed me toward him? Who kept making snide comments, setting up every moment? You played us both, Sloane, just like you played everyone else. I learned from the best, didn't I? Who taught me to manipulate men? Who showed me money trumps integrity? Who raised me to think I was above everyone? A knock interrupted them. Through the peephole, Madison stood in the hallway, holding papers, her designer outfit mocking their shabby space. What do you want? Sloane demanded, yanking open the door. Don't be mad, Madison said. My mom sent me with the repayment agreement. Sign it today or we're pressing charges. Charges? Maris stepped forward. For borrowed money? That's ridiculous. Not just borrowed, Madison's voice was ice. Fraud. Identity theft. Sloane used my credit card without permission 6 times. We have receipts. Sloane paled. Maddie, please. We've been friends forever. Friends don't steal. Madison thrust the papers forward. Sign. You'll work at my mom's company this summer. Filing, cleaning, whatever she says. Minimum wage, garnished to pay your debts. Minimum wage? Sloane staggered back. I can't. I've never worked a day in your life, Madison finished. That's changing. After Madison left, Maris found Sloane on the second-hand couch, staring at the agreement. Did you really steal from her? Maris asked quietly. What's it matter? Sloane's voice was dead. You stole from Dad for years, taking his money while flirting with other men, treating him like a wallet, not a husband. At least I was upfront about being a thief. Is that what you think? Maris sank beside her. You think I married him just for money? Sloane turned, eyes cold. All those stories about how boring he was, how you settled for security over passion? Face it, Mom, you never loved him. You loved his wallet. The truth choked the air, poisoning what was left of their bond. I have to pack for the dorm, Sloane stood, voice cracking. Only 2 suitcases allowed, Dad's rules. Sloane! Maris reached for her, but Sloane pulled away. Don't, she snapped. We did this to ourselves. All the times we laughed at him, mocked him, treated him like nothing, we never thought he'd fight back. That's the joke. We were so smug, we didn't see him outsmarting us. Through the thin walls, neighbors' arguments about bills and money drifted in, a glimpse of their new reality. No more luxury shops, no spas, no sneering at common people they once despised. I'm going to bed, Sloane said, heading for her tiny room. Gotta be up early for job applications. That's what normal people do, right? Maris watched her go, haunted by memories of scheming together in their mansion, thinking they were untouchable. Now they could barely look at each other. In their dim apartment, Maris scrolled through old photos, pausing on one of Calder teaching Sloane to ride a bike, his face patient despite their mockery. "We never deserved him," she whispered to the empty room, "and now we never will." 6 months after that fateful dance turned his world upside down, Calder Matthews sat in his sleek new office, poring over quarterly reports. The floor-to-ceiling windows framed a fresh city skyline, unmarred by the sting of betrayal. His phone buzzed with a text from his realtor. "Mansion sale closed this morning. New owners move in next week." A faint smile crossed his lips. The house fetched far above asking price, another win for his sharp financial instincts. He donated Maris's designer furniture to charities, turned Sloane's trust fund into scholarships for underprivileged kids, and meticulously erased every remnant of his old life. Good riddance. A knock at the door snapped him out of his thoughts. "Mr. Matthews, your dinner reservation's set for 7 and the team's ready for your presentation whenever you are." "Thanks, Jennifer," he called out, flashing a genuine smile at his new assistant, chosen for her skills, not her socialite connections. "How's your son doing with those college applications?" "So much better, thanks to that scholarship program you suggested," Jennifer beamed. "He's actually excited about business school now." The exchange was refreshingly simple, free of hidden agendas or manipulative games. What a relief after decades of dodging Maris's social schemes and Sloane's endless ploys. His intercom buzzed again. "Sir, the university board's on the line." "Put them through," Calder said, picking up the phone. The board member's voice crackled with an update on Sloane. "She's struggling with the work-study program. Showed up late twice this week, whining about the manual labor." "Should we cut her some slack?" the man asked. "Absolutely not." Calder's tone was steel. "She needs to learn actions have consequences. If she can't handle it, she can drop out." Hanging up, he opened his laptop to a surveillance report he'd commissioned. The photos were stark. Maris leaving a discount department store in last season's clothes, Sloane lugging textbooks to her library job, their beat-up used car parked outside a rundown apartment. What a fall from grace. His phone rang, a number he hadn't seen in months. "Calder," Maris's voice came through, smaller, weaker than he remembered. "Can we please talk?" "We've got nothing to discuss," he replied, calm but cold as ice. "The divorce is final. Assets are split, house is sold." "That's not—" Maris faltered, strain cracking her voice. "Sloane's in trouble. She's talking about dropping out, running off to Miami with some guy she met online. I can't control her anymore." "That's your problem," he shot back, unflinching. "You taught her manipulation and deceit were fine. You created this mess." "She's your daughter," Maris broke. "Don't you care what happens to her?" "I cared for 18 years, he said, his voice steady but sharp. "I tried teaching her values, responsibility, decency. You sabotaged every lesson, molded her into your mirror image. Now you both get to live with it."
"We're drowning," Maris whispered, her voice raw. "Everything's falling apart. I never knew how much work your lifestyle took."
"You never did," Calder cut in. "Too busy dancing with other men, mocking my sacrifices to give you everything?" Her sobs echoed through the phone, stirring nothing in his heart. "The department store job barely covers rent," she cried. "My modeling contacts won't call back. I don't know how to live like this." "You should have thought of that before picking your dance partner," he said, his words like a blade. "Goodbye, Maris. Don't call again." He hung up, turning to the window. Below, the city buzzed with people working, building, creating, lives rooted in value, not just consumption. His new life felt clean, free of the drama that defined his marriage. What a weight off his shoulders. The intercom buzzed once more. "Sir, your dinner guests arrived early. Send them up?" "I'll meet them in the lobby," Calder replied, grabbing his jacket. The elevator ride gave him a moment to reflect on the past 6 months. His company was soaring, unshackled from Maris's social demands. His new friends valued his character, not his bank account. Even his health was better. The stress of managing his wife and daughter's whims was replaced by the joy of living authentically. Who knew freedom could feel this good? The lobby doors parted, revealing his dinner companions. Business associates who respected his mind, not his wallet, and never once hinted he needed to be more exciting. "Shall we?" he gestured toward the door, where his driver waited with a modest car, a far cry from the flashy one Maris insisted they needed for appearances. As they drove through the city, Calder's phone buzzed with a final message, a university security photo of Sloane arguing with her library supervisor, her face twisted in that entitled scowl she'd inherited from Maris. He deleted it without a second thought. Their choices led them here. Their actions destroyed the family he'd poured his heart into building. Some might call it revenge, but Calder saw it as justice. He'd simply stepped back, stopped propping up those who never valued him, and let consequences run their course. That their world had crumbled wasn't vengeance, it was fairness. The restaurant was understated, elegant without being showy. As Calder sat with his new associates, discussing plans and possibilities, the last chains of his old life fell away. Somewhere across the city, in a dingy apartment with peeling walls, his ex-wife and daughter were learning brutal lessons about loyalty, respect, and the true cost of betrayal. He raised his glass, toasting to fresh starts and clean breaks. The dance was done. The music had stopped. The gut-wrenching betrayal in this story hits hard. It's a raw, painful reminder that a lifestyle built on deceit and entitlement is a house of cards waiting to collapse. Maris and Sloane's world of luxury, propped up by Calder's sacrifices, crumbled because they treated loyalty like a cheap accessory, easily discarded for a fleeting thrill. I feel a mix of pity and frustration for them. They were so blinded by their own arrogance, they never saw the cost of mocking the man who held their lives together. How could they not see his quiet strength? Socially, this screams a warning about the toxicity of manipulative relationships. Maris and Sloane's scheming, flirting with others, belittling Calder, shows a culture obsessed with appearances over substance. It's infuriating how they leaned into shallow social games only to be shocked when the rug was pulled out. Calder's response, though cold, feels like a reclaiming of dignity. He didn't just walk away, he dismantled their illusion with surgical precision. Good for him! It's a powerful lesson. You can't exploit someone's loyalty forever without consequences. What breaks my heart is the missed chance for genuine connection. Calder tried to teach values, but Maris and Sloane chose manipulation over integrity. Their downfall isn't just financial, it's the loss of family, trust, and self-respect. This story begs us to value authenticity over flash, to cherish the people who quietly hold us up, not the ones who dazzle for show. Living for status or control, as Maris and Sloane did, only leads to a lonely, hollow end. Let's choose better: honesty, gratitude, and real bonds before it's too late.